about you, but I don't like doctors. Is there anybody else who's with me on that one? Yeah, I mean, if you're a doctor here, I'm sorry, but I just don't like you. I hate doctors. I try to avoid them at all costs. No matter what, I self-diagnose. You can actually do this through the internet now. Like you don't need a doctor anymore. You can go on. You can put all your diagnostic elements on the internet and figure out what you've got. It's absolutely incredible. There's just so many things I don't like about the doctors. I don't like going to the waiting room. I mean, I don't like it there. I don't know if they understand the value of my time. They set an appointment for 2 o'clock, and 2 hours later, you're still waiting. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah, it's like their time matters, but my time doesn't. I don't like that. I don't like going into the small little room. I mean, you wait for 2 hours in the big room with everybody else, and you're trying to determine what kind of sickness they have. You know, that person, I think I know, they're in deep trouble. You're looking around, and you're trying to identify that. Then you got to go into this small room. I don't even know why you've got to go there, because you're waiting there for another half an hour. I think it's just to create a higher level of stress in your heart. And you're waiting there, and you're beginning to look around the room, and you want to open drawers, and you want to try that paper on the whatever that thing's called. You want to try that. I mean, you're just sitting there, and your heart's racing, waiting for the doctor to come in. And then he comes in, and he begins to do the examination. And he doesn't say a whole lot, or she doesn't say a whole lot. They just kind of look at you. They check out your eyes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Then they write something down on their pad of paper. Then they look in your ears. Oh yeah. What do you mean, oh yeah? Then they do a little check of your heartbeat, and write that down. What does that mean, Like, don't say those little things, because they get my mind racing. And then you're sitting there after the full checkup, and there's this long pause that feels like eternity. And you're thinking, okay, doc, what do I got? How long do I have to live? What's the diagnosis? Will it be an extreme thing? Will I need to be hospitalized for a number of days? Will my insurance cover this? And you're beginning to think worst case scenario. Do I need to say my farewells to everybody? And the doctor says, looks like you got a common cold. You know, something like that. I hate going to the doctors, and so I try to avoid it at all costs. The problem is that if you don't go for regular checkups, you can find yourself in situations where something minor grows into something bigger, and by the time that you actually get to the doctor, it may be too late. I mean, the small problem can grow into something huge that's less than treatable and can create some long-term impact upon your life. I'm friends with the superintendent from Western Ontario, and Lori has diabetes, and there was a season just recently where he found himself needing to take a few months off of work and just be seated, not on his feet, because his foot had gone black, and there was a concern that they were going to have to remove his foot. I was talking to Lori just a few weeks ago, and I said, Lori, just talk to me about what happened. Did you not know that there were signs? Did you not see that there was a problem? And he says, oh, yeah, Jeff. He said, I saw that there was this problem, and it started to get sore and got red and got swollen and got a little bit black. He says, but I just kept on avoiding it. I thought, oh, it'll go away. And he says, I kept waiting, and I kept waiting, and I kept waiting, because I didn't want to go to the doctor. And he says, eventually, when I finally realized that it was important for me to go to the doctor, I got there, and the doctor says, it's a good thing you walked in, because it was almost too late. And he says, if we can do the right treatment, and if you can stay off your feet, we can save your foot. But it was almost too late. You see, going to the medical doctor for a checkup is important to make sure that you don't wait too long, so that the small thing doesn't grow into something bigger, that you don't find yourselves at a place where it's almost too late. And friends, the same thing with the medical checkups is true for the spiritual checkups. There are times we don't allow God to do a search, to do a checkup of our lives. We put it off. We don't allow God to take some time and to breathe into us and speak into us about what's going on the inside. We may see little signs of coldness. We may see little signs of sickness, but we keep avoiding it because, friends, we got to admit, we live in such a busy world. Like for us to take time to fast or to get alone with God for an hour so that He could speak into us and identify things that need fixing, who's got time for that? But the longer we put off the spiritual checkups, the more we push God away, that, friends, the greater the chance is that that which was small will grow into something that's big. That which is very treatable can cause incredible problems later on in our lives. You see, it's important that we have regular spiritual checkups with God. And so this morning, I want to talk to you about the checkup. And I want you to turn your Bibles to Psalm chapter 139, verses 23 to 24. Just grab some water. Psalm 139, verses 23 to 24. If you don't have your Bibles this morning, you'll see that the scripture is up on the screen. David writes, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there are any offensive ways in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." One more time. "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there are any offensive ways in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." Psalm 139 is an incredibly interesting passage. We didn't read the whole thing, but David starts off talking about how well God knows him. About how God knows the very intricacies of who he is. How he knows his mind, how he knows his heart, how he knows his organs, how he knows everything, about how God knit him together, how God understands him more than anybody else. The great designer understands David, and he celebrates this fact that there's nowhere he can go and he can escape from God because God knows who he is. And then all of a sudden he shifts his conversation with God to talking about those who are around him, those who are evil. And he says, "God, I need you to know how much I hate wicked people. I hate the things that you hate. I hate the things that offend you. I hate the things that upset your heart, God." Then as he's praying this, all of a sudden there's this pause. And I can just picture him. "God, you know me so well. God, you understand my inner being. God, you understand everything about me. There's nowhere I can go to escape you. God, I want you to know that I hate evil people. I hate the wicked. I hate the things that you hate." And this pause. And as he has just heard his last words, he wonders to himself, is it possible that there is wickedness inside of me? I mean, if there's anybody who would know, it's God. And God, I want to hate the things you hate, but is it possible that there are things inside of me that are wicked? Is it possible that there are things inside of me that don't belong? Are there things that actually upset you, God? And David prays this prayer, "God, could you do a spiritual checkup on my life? Could you do a checkup to make sure everything's okay?" And the first thing he prays is, "God, would you check my heart?" He says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Search my inner being." Now he's not talking about your literal heart. "God, check to see if I need a bypass. And God, check to see how the valves are working." No, he's talking about the inner part of your being. This word heart refers to the soul of who you are. Your mind, your emotions, your will. Your mind begins to tell you that things are a certain way, and that begins to impact your emotions, and eventually when your emotions hit to a certain level, you say, "Okay, I will now do this." They all tie together. It's the very essence of who we are. And David says to God, "Would you check the very essence of who I am, God? Would you make sure that there's no inner deception inside of me? God, there are things inside of me that I think are good, but God, only you know what my soul looks like. Only you know what my heart looks like. Would you begin to check?" And he says, "God, I need you to answer some questions." Question number one, am I doing this for the right reasons? Am I doing this for the right reasons? A few months ago, I was posting some stuff. I was preparing for some schoolwork I was doing, and I was posting about working on my thesis, and I put a couple posts just to let people know that I was going to be consumed with this. One of my friends responded on Facebook, and I can't remember how he worded it, but he basically was asking me, was I notifying people, or was I telling people the great journey that I was on? Was I bragging? And as I read this email, I thought to myself, I'm pretty sure that wasn't my original intention, but is there something deep inside of me? Is there something inside of me that's doing this for another reason? And I had to question myself, and there's been times where I've posted on Facebook. I don't know how many of you are on Facebook, but there's times I've posted, and I have to ask myself, am I trying to celebrate something here? Am I trying to inspire people with what's going on at our church or in my life? Or am I simply using this as a moment to brag. That's my journey. That's what I have to search. God, am I doing this for the right reasons? Am I doing this because I want to do something for a noble reason? There are times we find ourselves being involved in the work of God or serving in a certain capacity, and we almost are spiritually proud. And we've got to ask ourselves, God, would you search my heart and find out whether or not I'm doing this for the right reasons? Am I doing this because people expect it of me? Am I doing this because people will affirm who I am? Am I doing this because everybody will think I'm a great person? Am I doing this because I don't want to look like the odd man out? Am I doing this for the right reasons? And friends, every now and then we need to come before God and say, God, as I serve in this area, as I do this act, as I volunteer in this place, as I try to serve you, am I doing this for the right reasons? Your response will always be, of course I am. But when the great physician begins to look inside, search my heart, God. Know what's going on inside of me. He will let you know whether or not you're doing it for the right reasons. Secondly, not only am I doing this for the right reasons, but will I continue through all the seasons? Will I continue through all the seasons? You see, there are people in this world who are all in. I mean, as soon as the things get exciting, they're in. Oh, Pastor, I'm in. I'm on board. I'm behind you 100%. I'm behind. I mean, things are exciting right now. I love the vision. I love the atmosphere in this place. I'm all in. They're in for that season, but they're not in for all seasons. You see, if God were to search their hearts, He would reveal that they're in for the good seasons, just not the bad seasons. Just flip over in your Bibles to John chapter 2 for a second. I want to show you this. John chapter 2, verse 23. Jesus is in Jerusalem, and it's the Passover feast. And he says this. John writes, "Now while he was in Jerusalem at the Passover feast, many people saw the miraculous signs he was doing and believed in his name. But Jesus would not entrust himself to them, for he knew all men. He did not need man's testimony about man, for he knew what was in man." I mean, what's going on is Jesus is doing all kinds of miracles. You know, he comes over and he lays his hands upon the blind man, and all of a sudden the blind man's eyes are open. And there's a few people going around the situation going, oh man, I'm in with this guy. I mean, this guy's the real deal. This must be the Messiah. He just prayed for someone's eyes to open up. I'm in, Jesus. And I can just hear Peter go, hey, Jesus, you know, that person says they're in. They've got lots of money. They're going to contribute to our ministry. This is incredible. You need to know this guy's got a great reputation. He's all in. Right, Peter, right. Comes along again, and he performs another miracle. Somebody who's crippled, and lays his hands upon them, and all of a sudden, the bones straighten out, and they begin to walk for the first time with no problems. And people start to gather around. Jesus, I'm all in. I'm all in. Look at what you're doing. Who wouldn't want to be all in? And as he's going through and he's doing all these miracles, people are immediately surrounding themselves, coming around and surrounding Jesus, and they're telling Jesus that they're all in. But John says that Jesus won't commit himself to these people. He's not convinced by their words, because he knows what's in the heart of individuals. He knows what's in the soul of individuals. He knows that people will say they're all in through the good seasons, but when things get difficult, when things get challenging, when Jesus starts talking about eating his flesh and drinking his blood, I mean, who's going to stick around for that? And friends, I've been around the church world enough to know that there are people who get really excited and they say they're all in. They're in for the good seasons. But the question is God, am I in? Am I going to be passionate about you? Am I going to be all in when the seasons are not as exciting? Oh, I'll worship with everything I've got when everybody else does. But if I stand alone and nobody else is worshiping, will I be all in? Am I in for all seasons? Oh, I'll volunteer if there's mass momentum. I'll volunteer if everybody else is doing it. But if not everybody else is doing it, am I all in? I'm all in. I'm all in right now, but God, when it gets difficult, I mean, when things are challenging, I mean, when there's just a little less excitement, God, am I still all in? Am I all in when there's a decision that's made for my life, God, that you make for my life? Am I still going to be all in? A decision that I don't like, a decision that I hate, am I still going to be all in there? Am I going to be all in when the pastor makes a decision? Am I going to be super supportive when he does one thing and I go, I don't like that decision? Am I going to be all in? Search my heart, oh God. Am I going to be all in when things are moving too slow? I mean, I watch it, churches where people, they're all gung-ho, but things are not going as fast as they wanted to, and then they go find another place where things are moving a little faster. Am I all in? Am I all in? Or what about when someone offends you? If you're new to this church, let me guarantee you something about this place. Somebody's going to offend you here. Want to join today? Membership at the back. I mean, somebody is going to offend you here. I know this week I'll probably offend Ainsley. I don't mean to. I'm human. I'll do my best to make sure I don't, but I'm pretty sure I'll say something that makes her not so happy. And I guarantee you there are going to be people who will say things that will offend you. Are you going to be all in when they offend you? Are you going to be all in when someone gives you a dirty look or someone gives you no look? Are you going to be all in when someone doesn't talk to you in the hall? Are you going to be all in when things aren't going your way? David says, God, would you search me, not only whether or not my motives are I'm doing things for the right reasons, but God, am I willing to serve you with everything through all seasons, through the good seasons and the bad seasons? You see, friends, it's easy to serve God when everything's going good. It's easy. And you would sit here this morning and go, I'm here. God, I'm yours. The song that we sang, I'm all yours, God. I'm going to stand for you. This is a great atmosphere. There are good people. The music's good. The atmosphere is just warm. It's just a great atmosphere. So, God, I'm all in. But when you step out tomorrow and your boss tells you off and something inside of you rises up, and you want to tell your boss some things that are not from the sanctified you. You know what I'm talking about? The unsanctified you rises up. Well, let me tell you something, boss. Are you going to be all in? David recognizes this in his heart, that there are times where he seems to be all in, he seems to be passionate, he seems to be going after God. There's times where things are so good inside of his life, but he says, God, would you search my heart to make sure that I'm there for you 100% for the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly. All in. Then the third question that we need to ask is not only am I doing this for the right reasons, not only am I here for the right through all seasons, but how strong is my heartbeat? How strong is my heartbeat? You know, most people that are in the church, if you were to ask them, do you love God? Most people will say, oh, absolutely. I mean, can you imagine being out in the foyer and turning to someone and saying, hey, do you love God? Well, it's up for grabs. You know, yeah. Yesterday I did. Today, got an argument with the kids on the way in. You know, my hair won't do what it's supposed to do. I just checked my bank account. There's less money than I thought there was. A couple more bills. Or can you imagine turning to someone and saying, hey, do you love God? No, I just like this church. I mean, the pastor, he's a nice guy. I like the worship pastor, and things are nice, and Pastor Adam does a great job with announcing. This is a good place, nice warm people. It's a good place where there's air conditioning in the middle of the summer. That's why I come. No, I don't love God. No, most people, if you were to ask them if they love God, they'd say, oh, absolutely, I love God with all my heart. The question is how strong is your heartbeat for Him? How strong is your heartbeat for Him? You see, it's easy to say the words, I love God. But does your life reveal the words? Do you remember the first day you got saved? Do you remember maybe that awakening moment? Maybe you were brought up in the church, and there was that moment where you truly grabbed hold of your faith. You truly became alive to Jesus. And all of a sudden, something rose up inside of you, this excitement. Your heart started to beat like crazy. It's like the first time I saw Ainsley. My heart starts beating. It starts beating because I'm connected to her emotionally. Oh, I like her a lot. My heart starts beating. That's what it was like with you and God. And there were times when, in those early days where your heart was beating, you could not wait to get to church. I mean, you would make sure that you were here right away. You didn't want to miss one beat of it. You didn't want to miss one element of the service. Your heart was so eager to go after God. Is that still the way it is? There was a day when you had this hunger for the Word. You had a hunger for Scriptures. You couldn't wait to crack open the Bible to see what God had to say. Oh, God, speak to me again. I'm not doing this out of obligation. I'm not doing this out of discipline. I'm doing this because I'm so in love with your Word. There's life in here. Oh, speak to me, God. When you first gave your life to Christ, there was this passion. You couldn't wait to pray. Couldn't wait. I remember as a teenager, I'd be at school all day long, this awakening season, I'd be at school going, I can't wait till class is done. Now you think, well, that's what typical teenagers do. But the reason why I couldn't wait is I couldn't wait to get home to get into His presence. God, you're going to speak to me today? I'm going to feel your presence. Can't wait to tell you what's gone on in my day, God. Can't wait to get home and just pray. God, there's nothing more that I long for but your presence. You'd fall asleep at nighttime, and rather than thinking about all the things of the day and all the problems that were going to be taking place in the upcoming days, your mind would be upon Him. You'd fall asleep saying, God, I love you so much. Thank you for your grace. God, I'm messed up here, but forgive me, but I know your grace is sufficient for me. I know your blood covers all my sins. And your heart would pound. As people talked about Jesus, your heart would pound. There was this hunger inside of you to go after Him. Let me ask you something this morning, friends. I'm asking for you to do it. Let God do a checkup. How's your heartbeat? It's really quiet. Is everybody's heart still beating? How's your heartbeat? If I could be honest, there are days I know my heart's not beating the way it once did. There are days when I let God put His finger in my heart, examine me, and say, Jeff, there's something wrong with your heart. You don't love me the way you once did. You're doing all the right things. You're doing them for the right reasons, but your heart is beating slower. The passion, the romance between you and me is dying. I want your heart to beat again. I want you to hear my name and you to smile. I don't want you to be provoked by somebody else in worship. I want my presence to provoke you in worship. I don't want you to go, oh, I've got to pray. I want you to long to be in my presence. I don't want you to go, oh, I got to read the Scriptures. I want you to long for that. I don't want you to feel an overwhelming fear when you share your faith. I want you to be so excited to tell your story about the person you love the most. How's your heartbeat? How's your heartbeat? David says, search me, O God. Know my heart. Am I doing these for the right reasons? Am I willing to be all in for all seasons? And how's my heartbeat, God? Search me. Search my heart. Not only does he ask God to check his heart, but he asks God to check his mind. He says this, test me and know my anxious thoughts. David recognizes that there are times when he's worried. There are times where he becomes overwhelmed with anxiety, stress. Anybody ever face stress? Those of you who don't have your hands raised, I need to book a meeting with you later on. Because I face it all the time. How am I going to do this? How's this going to get accomplished? What's going to happen here? And I like to be in control, and if I'm not in control, all the things are going to get out of control. Stress levels, anxiety, and David says, test me to see if there are any anxious thoughts. This word test means to scrutinize, to provide a series of tests to ensure that things are healthy. Let me give you an example. I could stand here today to tell you that I'm in great shape. I know many of you believe that. You can see me right now and go, he must be in good shape. Sad place. Anyways, I could tell you that I'm in great shape. I could tell you that. I could go around going, I'm in great shape. I'm as fit as can be. I was telling Pastor Adam that I can outrun him. He thinks he's faster than me. I think I'm faster than him. Someday we'll have a race, but not today. And I could tell you that I'm in great shape. And then I go outside and we play baseball. And I hit a double, and I'm running, and the ball's coming into second, and I'm coming around first base, and I'm running with everything I got, and I get to second base, and I stand up, and I need a lung. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I need a, like it takes me 3 weeks to recover from that one run. I mean, I'm breathing heavy. I feel sick. I need a runner. Someone step in. Oh, yeah, he's in shape. Oh, yeah, he's in shape. The test was the run from home plate to second base. Pastor Jeff, we saw how much it took out of you. There's no way you're in shape because I went through the test. David says, God, I need you to put some tests in my life to make sure that my thoughts are not anxious, that I'm not filled with improper thoughts. Thoughts that cause me to fear, thoughts that cause me to doubt. Because, friends, anxiety and worry comes from our doubts and our fears. You see, the core of what David's saying is that there is a belief issue here, that the things that he says he believes are not lining up with his actions. I mean, when we truly believe that God's going to step in, there's no anxiety, there's no fear, there's no worry. If we truly believe it, then we can live, we can act in a peaceful way. But when our mind says one thing and our actions say something else, we know there's a problem. I remember a few years ago, I was trying to develop worship throughout our district, and I had this dream, this vision that if I could put a team of our best musicians together, and I could send them on a tour throughout our district, I could send them and do some one-day conferences that they could teach students how to write. I just believe that the Holy Spirit is constantly stirring people in the arts, especially in songwriting, and that we shouldn't just be singing songs of the past, that He wants to give us a new song that He's constantly creating. And so I had this desire to send these musicians out to do that. So I gathered these 3 leaders together, and we began to talk about what this could look like. And I said, guys, if we could get students writing new music, we could sing those at our events, if we could get the fresh stuff that the Holy Spirit's doing, we don't necessarily need to look towards Australia or to the States. God's doing something here in Canada, so let's sing the stuff that He's doing here. Begin to sell His vision. And as we began to talk, the 3 of them said, hey, you know what would be great? We could earn a right into people's lives if we put a CD together of some of our worship. We could show people what happens when you step out, you listen to the Holy Spirit, and you write songs. We could put something extraordinary together, sell it to everybody, and then that would give us the platform into their churches. And this one individual really pushed it. I thought, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And so they got really excited, and they began to put the plan together. And so I was really excited. I said, guys, I believe in this. This is wonderful. I'm going to back you 100%. I so believe in what you're proposing to me. And then they came to me and they said, hey, Jeff, we need $5,000 to do this. Well, now we have a test of my beliefs. I'm 100% behind you, but you want my money? And they said, well, we don't want your money. We want the district money. We want to know if they would put some seed money. Lend us $5,000. Well, I knew that our office wouldn't do so, but I knew that our youth ministries had garnished enough money into our account that we actually had some money to do this. And so I put the appeal to our officers, and we were able to lend them $5,000. Money's in their hands. Keep promoting, keep promoting, keep promoting. But they were supposed to give the money back by a certain date. And I got to tell you something, friends. The closer it is, and the closer it is to the deadline, and the further the answer is, or apparently is, the less your belief system is intact. And I'm like, I believe that they're going to give the money back. I believe in this project, but we're getting closer to the date, and the money seems further away, and I start getting anxious. And this is what David's saying, that the belief system gets tested in the midst of reality, in the midst of crisis, in the midst of trying times where it doesn't seem like God's going to step in, and we have to put our belief system to the test. So let me talk to you about some things that we say we believe. Let's go to the next slide. We say all my sins are forgiven by God. But one Saturday we do something that we know completely offends the heart of God. And the enemy begins to speak to us and says, hey, you're a sinner. God can't forgive this. God's not going to cleanse this one. This one, you've done this one too many times. Stress rises. Your heart pounds. And you have a conflict between what you say you believe and what you truly believe. We say, God is my provider. We proclaim that, and in the seasons where the bank account's full, we say, oh, that's great. But then we go to the bank account, and it's running in the red. I mean, we're in a deficit situation, and the next check's not coming for a week. And now we say, oh, God, yeah, you're supposed to be my provider. I'm a little stressed now. I'm a little worried right now. Do we really believe it? Prayer is essential to my Christianity. We say, oh yeah, prayer is essential to my Christianity. It's important for me to talk to God. But then we get so busy with other things, do we really believe it? The Bible gives me the guidance I need daily. Oh, I believe that the Bible's so important. I haven't opened it for a few days. Haven't opened it. Conflict between my beliefs and my actions. We believe that people will be eternally separated from God if they don't accept Christ. Oh, we believe that. That's why we grabbed hold of Jesus, because we don't want to be eternally separated, and yet we fail to share that truth with other people. Do we really believe it? Let's look at the next slide. Forgiveness is a natural expression of my Christianity. Oh, I believe that I'm supposed to forgive to whom much is given, much is required. I believe I'm supposed to forgive 70 times 70. But oh my goodness, do you know what that person said to me? Do you know what they said? They said they don't like my shirt. How dare they say that? I'm not talking to that person. That person's of the devil. I'm not talking to them. We say in certain seasons we believe certain things, but then we get tested. We say, I believe as part of God's body I have a role. I believe I'm supposed to give in service to the overall body of Christ. And yet, when the opportunity comes for us to volunteer, we believe something else. Ooh, it's quiet. We say God is my protector, and yet we find ourselves in dangerous situations, and we get worried, we get fearful. That's why we don't go to the doctor, because can he really protect me from the things that are hitting my body? We say we believe that there's nothing that can separate me from God's love. But the enemy keeps speaking all these things. You did this. What about this? You're so dry. God can't love you. Don't you remember what you did? Don't you remember this? And we claim it in the good seasons, but in the difficult seasons under the testing, the belief system gets thwarted. Lastly, Jesus said that the things he did, I can do, and even greater things. And yet, we would proclaim that. We would say that the same Spirit that's in Christ lives within us. And yet, when it comes to praying for someone to be healed, let's ask somebody else. Is everybody with me still? Oh, we say our Christianity is good. We say everything's fine. We're incredibly healthy. And yet, friends, I'm sure that as I've gone through this list, that there are things that are on these two screens that point a finger into your heart. I would assume that because they point a finger into my heart, where my beliefs are not lining up with my actions. And I choose something else because of fear or because of anxiety or because of excuses. And David says, he says, God, I need you to check. I need you to scrutinize. I need you to put me through the test. I'm not looking for a good season. I'm actually looking for a difficult season to actually make sure that the things that are in my mind, the things that I say are in my mind, my belief system, that they actually line up with my actions. God, would you scrutinize me? You see, he comes to the disciples. He says, hey, what do you guys got to eat for these 5,000 people? Well, at least 5,000 men, probably 15,000. What do you got? Oh, we just got a boy's lunch, Jesus. Yeah, that's good. Why don't you feed them? Seriously? Seriously, you want us to feed them with this little lunch? Yeah, that'd be good. Well, Jesus, we know that you're the great provider and you can multiply things and you're a miracle worker. But seriously? Yeah, I want to see whether or not your belief system actually lines up with your words or with your actions. Peter, why don't you come out and walk on the water? Oh, God. Oh, guys. Look, he's gonna sink so much. Oh, we know that Jesus is miraculous. But surely, look at Peter. He can't keep him up. Peter starts walking on the water. And then as he's out there, he starts to get anxious thoughts. What in the world am I doing out here? And he begins to sink. Belief system in conflict with actions. Then he goes to Noah many years beforehand. Hey, Noah, build an ark. It's going to rain. Oh, okay. And Noah's going around telling but hey, rain's coming, rain's coming, rain's coming. It's the sunniest days you've ever seen. There's not a cloud in the sky. Rain's coming. Rain's coming. That's a big boat you got there, Noah. Yep. Why? Because water's going to fall from the sky. Yeah, right. Day before. Oh, God. Why is it so sunny? Why is it so sunny? A testing of his beliefs in the midst of God's instruction. Hey, Mrs. Lot, Mrs. Lot, I don't want you to look back at Sodom and Gomorrah. Don't look back. No, I won't. I believe that I'm in trouble if I look back. I believe I'm in trouble. I believe that. I shouldn't look back. Oh, God, how much trouble am I really going to be in? And then she turns into a pillar of salt. You know that the very first problem in the Bible came because of this issue? Satan comes to Adam and Eve, to Eve in particular, and says, hey, did God really say? It's a question of whether or not your beliefs are going to line up with your actions. Eve, did God really say that you're not supposed to eat? Did he really say that you would surely die? Is it possible that he's concerned that you will be as smart as him? Is it possible? Begins to question her belief system. And friends, when it comes to coming before God, we have got to say, God, how's my belief system doing? Check my mind. I don't want the enemy winning in my life. I don't want my actions lining up with disbelief. I don't want my actions lining up with worry. I don't want my actions lining up with fear. I want to have belief that matches my actions and actions that matches my belief. Check my mind. So he says, check my heart, check my mind. Lastly, check my habits. Check my habits. He says this, see if there be any offensive way in me. This word offensive means pain or to hurt. Something that causes pain to you, something that causes pain to others, something that causes pain to God. God, see if there be any offensive, anything painful that's causing pain to me, pain to others, or pain to you. But he doesn't just say a painful act. He says, see if there be any offensive way in me. A way is a path. It's a series of actions. You see, you can do one action today that's painful to you or painful to God or painful to others. That's not a way. That's just a step. We all have these moments where we just drop the ball and we offend God. But David's concerned about the things that keep happening. He's concerned about the things that have become habitual. I did this, I did it again, and now I'm creating a path. I'm on this path where I just keep doing it. Not one step, but I just keep taking steps in this way. This just seems to be the path of my life. I seem to be on this path where I just keep hurting myself or hurting other people or hurting God. The problem with habits is that we sometimes don't notice that they take place. You see, when you were a little kid, you would brush your teeth because your parents told you to. And I know that there's some great people in here, but I know that you, as little kids, walked around with bad breath. I just know that. I know that your parents would say to you, brush your teeth. And you would forget to brush your teeth. And then your parents would come down and they would, I want to talk to you, and you'd be face to face. And you would, as you would begin to speak, your parents would fall over in death. Because the fungus in your mouth had not been cleaned for weeks. You know what I'm talking about, right? But one day, your parents got you into a habit. Brush your teeth. And you'd come down. Did you brush your teeth? Oh, no. And you go back up to your room or to the bathroom and you brush your teeth. You come down. I brushed my teeth. Smell. Good job. Next day, come down. Did you brush your teeth? No. And you go back to your room. Come down. Smell. Nice mint. And after a few weeks of this happening, Mom and Dad stopped asking because it was a habit in your life. And now when you get up in the morning, no one asks the question. It's just what you do. I mean, it would be strange for you to come to church if you haven't brushed your teeth. If you haven't brushed your teeth and you don't have a lot of friends, let me give you a clue. Get the habit. There's a book called The Habit, and the author talks about how our brains are constantly trying to work more efficiently. And so what happens is we get a cue that produces a routine that looks for reward. So let me give you an example of how this works. The habit of gossip. We're in the middle of a conversation, and you can see that somebody wants the dirt on somebody else. And your emotions go, hey, if I can share something negative about this person to so-and-so, they're going to appreciate this conversation more. The cue's there. And all of a sudden, your mind begins to go into auto mode. It's now time to share negative stuff. And we go into this routine of spilling the stuff about this person negative. Do you know they did this, and then they said this, and and you begin to speak things in this auto mode routine. And then when you're done the routine, you get this reward. You feel good about yourself. I'm not as bad as them. I might be bad, but I'm not as bad as them. And we feel pretty righteous. We feel pretty good about ourselves. The next time you're together, the cue again. I feel like doing this. And then we into auto mode, and then we get the reward. And friends, these habits get formulated in our lives. Lust, the first time you get a lustful thought, the Spirit places His finger down inside of you. But eventually, it just becomes part of your life. You get the cue, hey, this would be good to look at this material or this person the wrong way. You begin to do it, and then you feel good about yourself because it's hit some emotional need that you have. Your anger, you get this cue, hey, I feel I have the right to become angry, and then we kick into the routine, and then we feel the reward of being able to have less stress inside because it's like emotional buildup, unforgiveness, gossip, pride, selfishness. Remember when Ainsley and I were dating, we were having this argument this one day, and it was something ridiculous, and I said to her, I'm just trying to fix this. And I'll never forget the words she said, Jeff, you're going to fix our relationship out of existence. Well, that was a wake-up call for me. And she began to expand. She says, you're trying to always fix things. I didn't realize that as I grew up, my environment was constantly full of fighting, constantly full of problems, and I was always the fixer. I'd always step in, and I would deal with the conflict, and I'd tell my mom, hey, this is what should happen, or this is what should take place, always trying to fix, and so I was always looking for the negative things. I was always looking for areas that needed to be fixed, and anything that was problematic, I'd identify so we could fix it right away. And it had become such a habit in my life that now I was bringing it into my relationship, and I was looking for every single thing that needed fixing. Well, friends, if you've been married for any length of time, you know that if you start fixing your spouse every single day, you're not going to have very many more days. Anybody know what I'm saying? There are days where your spouse, I'll just speak for me, and there are days where I might snap at Ainsley. And I'm going to deal with this right now. Or I might be lazy in area. I'm going to deal with this right now. But if she dealt with every single thing that I did, we'd just constantly be in conflict. The habit has become part of my life, and I needed to address it at that moment. And she became the person doing the checkup on me. You have a problem with this habit. Friends, some of us have got habits in our life that we have forgotten all about. We don't even recognize them anymore. They are so much a part of us. We lose our temper. We embrace lust. We embrace greed. We have the problem of gossip. We have pride in our heart. We have things that just keeps creeping in, and we don't even recognize it anymore because it has become a habit. Not just one step, but it's this path that's bringing pain to me, this path that's bringing pain to others, this path that's bringing pain to God. David says, God, check my life to make sure my habits are in line with yours. Last thing, and then we're going to close. Pastor Steve, would you come back to the guitar, and Jess, would you come back to the piano? But maybe a year and a half ago, I can't remember exactly, but Cal Anthony found some pain in his chest. He was one of the guys I worked with at district office. He found some pain in his chest, and he finally realized that he needed to go to the doctors to get a checkup. And as he went into the doctor to do the checkup because he was noticing something, the doctor did an examination and realized that he had some major heart problems. And they had to put him in for surgery right away and do this quadruple bypass, I believe it was. I called Cal just about 2 days after the surgery. And I said, Cal, how you doing? And I talked to an energetic individual. He said, I feel great, Jeff. I feel amazing. He says, obviously there's a pain from the chest, but I can't believe how much life I don't feel as tired. Talked to him a couple of weeks later. I said, Cal, how are you feeling now? He says, Jeff, it's like I got a new lease on life. I needed that heart surgery so bad, and now I can experience life. It was slowing me down. I didn't realize I was so tired, but once I had the surgery, life came. And David concludes this passage, and he says this, and lead me in the way everlasting. Friends, sometimes we hear messages about the checkup, and we think, oh, this is the pastor trying to beat our brow. He's trying to clothesline us with holiness. No, I'm just trying to lead you to the way everlasting. I'm trying to allow God to do the heart surgery in you so you can begin to experience the life He has for you. Because you see, the habits some of us have are robbing us of life. The thought patterns that some of us have are robbing us of life. The things that are in our heart are causing us to be full of anything but life. And David says, I want you to search me, God. I want you to know my thoughts. I want you to make sure there's no offensive way in me, because I want to be a man of God who's on a path that's full of life. And that's God's plan for you. He wants you to have a healthy heart, a healthy mind, and be on healthy paths. Jesus Christ said the thief comes to steal, kill, destroy. He's trying to wreck your heart. He's trying to wreck your mind. He's trying to wreck your habits. But Jesus Christ came and said, but I have come that you might have life, and life more abundantly. I want you to have an abundant heart. I want you to have an abundant mind. I want you to have an abundant path.